Well, you've made it to the very last lecture in this section, and I saved the most exciting one for the end. At least I think it's the most exciting. We are going to be working with SiriKit. So Siri on the iPhone, it allows you to, with your voice, say things like set the alarm for this time, schedule or send a text message to my friend, make an appointment, whatever it is that you want to do, Siri will handle it for you. And now Apple has given us the ability that we can, integrate our apps with Siri, and so that we can say, hey Siri, open up this ride sharing app and go do this thing. Now, you could apply that to our Uber app, or, it works for a bunch of different types of app. It works for like workout apps, messaging apps, things like that. So let's go ahead and just do an example of this. Now I do want to note that you need an iOS device to test this. So whether that's an iPad, iPhone, iPod, whatever it is, like you need a physical device to test this. You can't do it through the simulator. So if you don't have one, I might recommend not going forward with this. Okay, but let's go ahead and open up Xcode to create a new project. And we want to just do a single view application. Now this is kind of funny. You want to make sure that you give a very clear name here. For example, I had made an app name with donuts like this. And whenever I tried saying the name of the app, Siri would always spell it donuts like this, and it wouldn't recognize that that was the app that I was looking for. So you want to have a name that's very clear. So for me, I'm just going to make an app called Brown Dog. I mean, there's no way getting around that. Siri should definitely be able to identify that. So just kind of a weird, quirky thing I wanted to point out there. So once you have that done, hit next. We're going to put this on our desktop. Great. Now, in order to use Siri, we have to have permission from the user in order to use Siri. So we're going to add a new item to our P list, and we want to scroll down to where all those privacy settings are, and we want to look for the Siri usage description. So you just got to put something in here. I'm just going to say we need Siri, okay? And once you've got that, in your app, you have to ask the user for permission in order to use Siri with them. So we're going to import a new set of code here. So we're going to say import intents. So intents is what we use to use the SiriKit, and then the code that we're going to write inside of here is just going to ask the user if we can use SiriKit for them. So we're going to say in preferences dot request, and we want to request Siri authorization. So let me go ahead and go full screen here so we actually have some space. It gives us this nice handler to figure out whether or not the user said yes. So it gives us a status, which I'm just going to put an object called status. And then inside of here, we're going to do a little if statement with this. So we're going to say if status is equal to, and we can, check the different things that it could be equal to, right? One of them that I want to see is if status is equal to authorized. And I'm a little bit surprised that we're not getting the expected result here in Siri authorization status. Yeah, okay, so let's see. I'm going to do in Siri authorization status dot, and there's authorized, and I think now we should be able to delete that, and that's going to be okay. I'm not sure why it wasn't doing the autocomplete, but if we get this dot, if status is equal to authorized, then we should be able to print a little something and say, we can use Siri, okay? So before we go ahead and test this, there's one more thing I want to do with our app. So if we click on the project over here and we hit plus down here, this will allow us to add a new target. So we want to go ahead and look for the intents extension. We don't want intense UI extension. Make sure it's intents extension. And we'll hit next on this. The name here doesn't really matter, so I'm just going to call this maybe something like dog intents. And you can include your own custom UI for what's going to come up on the screen, but I want to focus more on what Siri is going to be doing. So let's leave this unchecked, and we can go ahead and hit finish there. All right, it's going to ask you if you want to activate this. Let's say yes to that, and you'll notice now here on the left side we've got this dog intents that has shown up. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video for a second to load this app on my phone and see if I can get this to show up, and then I'll come back and show you what's going on. So I went ahead and ran this app on my physical device. Here you can see the screen showing up, and now I've got this brown dog on my home screen. So if I go ahead and tap on this app, well, it promptly crashes. That's not a good thing. Maybe let's try just running the actual brown dog app here on the phone first, then we'll worry about the intent stuff. So we'll see if we can't get this to open up. There we go. And oh, we have gotten an error. Let's see what we've got. It's saying you did not enable Siri in your Xcode project. Okay, that makes sense. So let's go ahead, go back to our project here in the brown dog target. We are going to select capabilities, and we want to go to Siri and flip that switch to on. And it looks like we've also got to add this to our app ID. I'm hoping that Apple will be able to do that automatically, or Xcode will. So I figured out what finally fixed this for me. So I had to go to my targets, for example, for the brown dog app, and I went to general, added a team here, and I also had to change my bundle identifier to be something different. I had made an app previously when I was testing called brown-dog. So that's why I was having that error. You probably won't have the same thing, but you got to make sure you put your team here, and also in the dog intents in the same place. But once you've added that in both places, you should see that Xcode is going to handle this for us. And under capabilities of Siri, if we're getting those two checks, that means we're in a good place. So let's go ahead and run this on the device and see if we can't get this up. So I had one error, and that's that because I renamed the app to have the bundle identifier of brown doggy, I had to add the same thing here for my intents inside of its bundle identifier. But assuming that that's all working, we'll go ahead and run this on the phone. So this is going to run just the actual app on the phone. Okay, here comes that white screen, and if you see this of saying, hey, would you like to run brown dog with Siri, we're going to say okay to that, and you should see printed out down below, we can use Siri. Woohoo! So let's go ahead and see if our intent is going to work, and to test that out, we're going to go ahead and expand this dog intents folder. If I go into this intent handler, this is where we write all the code to say, hey, if someone's going to be using Siri, this is how we're going to do it. And this is the main function that, whenever something gets called and it's going to ask our app for information, this function gets called. So let's put a breakpoint right here, and let's just go ahead and ask our app for something like send a message using brown dog or something like that. So let's go ahead and test this. I'm going to run the app on my phone. And I got to switch this over to the dog intents over here so that we can actually debug and test this out. So when you hit run, it's really important that you choose Siri for your application. So if we just search for Siri here, I have a lot of apps on my phone, so we'll give Xcode a second here to find this. So I finally got this to work. Now if I search for Siri, it just pops right up. So if you go ahead and select that, hit run, and then it's going to open up the Siri stuff. So I'm going to be real quiet till it opens. Then I'm going to say send a message using brown dog. So here we go. Send a message using brown dog. And look at that. If you get this little green line showing up that you're in the debugger, that means your extension here, your intent is working. Now we can actually do some stuff with SiriKit. Ooh, this is exciting. So we don't want to have a breakpoint here anymore, or else this is going to get called a ton of different times. But I want you to notice these different intents that you can have. So there's different intents for working with SiriKit. In fact, if you want to see all those, let's open up Safari and just search SiriKit. Up here at the top, SiriKit programming. All right, and if you go to the documentation here, it's going to have all this information about the different things that you can do. But let's see, we want to do the one creating an intense app extension. Okay, so it's telling you about enabling Siri, blah, 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 all this stuff. But what we want to get to is, I want to see, I think we have to search for, let's do SiriKit programming guide. That's ultimately what we're looking for. So maybe I need to try this one. If we come down here, show me, oh, well, this has what I'm looking for. So these are the different things that Siri can be working with. So for example, it can show a QR code, it can show lists of stuff. It can work with payments, photo search, messaging. This is kind of the default one that we're going to be working with. It can work with workouts, climate, and radio. There's all these different things. And there's been a couple of different ones added here. For example, QR code was not here last time, which is pretty sweet. So anyways, pretty awesome stuff that you can do here with SiriKit. I just wanted you to see what you can have. So for example, ours is saying send message intent, search for messages, set message. Like those are all parts of the messaging intent here. So there's different ones, for example, with the QR code and the lists and stuff like that. The real thing that I want to show you is, here inside of this code, this is doing a bunch of different things. So for example, the resolve recipients, this is for messaging apps that, if someone's going to send a message and they haven't given who they want to be sent to. So for example, recipients count is equal to 0. That means the user didn't specify who they were sending to. Then we need to come back and ask for a specific name. Down here, if we get 2 or more matches, it's going to say, hey, we have to do some work about presenting some UI to say, hey, go ahead and pick this one, for example, or something like that. But anyways, there's these different options that you can choose to, here's when a confirmation is going to happen, or if you need to fix some of the content that's going to be coming out, if you want to see that. But if we go down here for the handle send message, this is sort of the big one for when somebody is about to send something out, what you want to do with it. If you want to, how you're going to handle doing that sending. So something that would be really great here is just to see if we can get who it is that we're sending to in the actual message to come through. And you can get these pieces of information, for example, here to get the text that's going to be inside of a Siri message. We're just going to copy this from resolve content. I'm going to paste this here. So here, this will give us the text of what it is that they're going to be sending. And if we scroll up here for the recipient step, we're going to do an if let for the recipients, and we can come through and get some information from there. So we'll do this. This gives us back an array of recipients. So let's go ahead and do a for loop. We're going to say for person in recipients. Okay, we'll just go ahead and do a for loop here. And then we can take this person that we have and we can get some information about them, like their display name and like their name component, stuff like that. So let's go ahead and just use the display name, for example. I just want to print this out. And the other thing that I want to print out is whatever the text is. So I'm going to print out the text. So we just want to see if I do this, if we're able to get this to print out down below. I'm going to do a breakpoint here to see if we can make it. So again, I'm going to run this on my phone, and I've got the extension there for the dog intent selected. Yes, we want Siri here for the application to run. Okay, I'm going to be quiet. Send a message using brown dog.
Who do you want to send it to?
Nick Walter.
What do you want to say?
Hey, this is a really cool app, and this text should show up in the console in Xcode if everything is working. Smiley face.
Here's your brown dog message to Nick Walter. It says, hey, this is a really cool app, and this text should show up in the console in Xcode if everything is working. Ready to send it?
Yes. Okay, look at that. We got the breakpoint, and if I hit play on this,
it's sent.
Okay, so look at this. How cool is this? We've got Nick Walter, so it knew who I was trying to send to, and it says, hey, this is a really cool app, and this text should show up in the console of Xcode if everything is working. I freaking love how easy Apple has made this to work with. So again, this is just working with the messaging stuff. There's lots of different other things that you can use for your app, but I at least wanted you to see the basics here and how you can get to this. And there's all sorts of different customized things you can do. So for example, remember back when you had the project selected and we were adding a new target, you could do the extensions UI, intense UI extension. This is where you could make your own custom thing rather than just using the default stuff that Apple has. There's so many different ways to handle this. But hopefully that kind of showed you what you can do. Thank you so much for joining me on this section. I know we covered a lot of different things here, but hopefully those are some things that you can add to your apps, maybe give you ideas for things that you can do in the future. I'm not sure how you'll use it, but please enjoy what you just learned.